Three, two, one. Hello, fellow scholars in the making. I'm Keshav, and I really like the sound of my own voice.
Hey, I'm the funny one.
Hi, I'm Ram and I'm the chosen one.
Hello, I am Sabyasachi and I'm the babysitter.
Bonjour, I'm Arya and I'm James Franco Pretentious.
Hi, I'm Diva and I don't know who I am. So, welcome to Think Aloud, an initiative by me and these amazing bunch of individuals.
Hey guys, welcome to Think Aloud episode 3. Today I'm going to host. My name is Milhar and we're going to talk about marketing. So let's dive into it. So Keshav, why don't you tell us what marketing is and the general, definition of marketing?
Well, if you look at marketing in the general sense, I think any sort of convincing that we try to do to another person, we try to sell an idea to someone, I think that is marketing. Uh, when we're trying to gain employment somewhere and we're trying to convince our employers to hire us, so we are selling ourselves, a version of ourselves to them. Even if you're writing an exam, for instance, you're presenting yourself, the words you're using, everything is you're wanting the other person to buy into the idea of what you're presenting to them. And even in social groups, when we go and behave in a certain manner, or we read about something to fit in with a certain kind of social group, I think that's all part of marketing in the general sense, of course.
All right, okay. And in a business sense, there's also a need for marketing, a huge need for marketing. And Sabir, why don't you tell us how marketing is involved in the business sense?
Well, I always felt that marketing as a whole is one of the most important aspects of business, right? So, for any product to actually sell, be it any product or any service, you need you need the information of the product or service to reach the public, right? So, marketing as a whole completely deals with that. So, that is what I feel as a whole.
Forget important part of business, marketing is business. Without marketing, there is no business, because you need that stuff to sell. You're not making it to make it, you're making it to sell it.
So we can conclude marketing as a strategy to sell a product to consumer.
Well, I think here's where I disagree a bit. I'd say marketing is the act of creating demand for a certain product in the marketplace, and selling, which I consider to be separate from marketing, is the final act of closing the deal.
Right, but then there's also sales component that comes under marketing separate from the business, which we need to consider as well.
Could you elaborate a bit more on that?
Right, so marketing has three main components, right? Advertising, where you make the people aware of the product. Branding, where you show the person that the product has been branded by a specific organization or company to verify its authenticity and quality and give assurance. And the third part is sales, where you implement marketing strategies to actually get the product sold out there, either through personal interactions or through various modes and commodities. And the other sales component of business considers the input and output. Like I'm putting in this much input of capital, and this is the output I'm getting from that, and the amount of revenue I'm making off that output. That's the sales component of business, and the sales component of marketing is the implementation of marketing strategies and its effects on how the product is being sold.
So I have a question over here, Mala. So are you saying that there is like a separate marketing thing and a separate marketing sales, and there's a sales as a, something like a different aspect? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm trying to say is that sales is sales at the end of the day, but then there are two different perspectives you can look at sales. So Keshav is trying to say the business point of view, and I would love to hear that. And I'm trying to also point out the marketing point of sales, where marketing plays an important role in sales and how they are directly correlated. Part of sales is also included in marketing.
The reason, like, obviously, these are not something which are present organically or naturally. These are purely human made constructs, and how we define them is also very loose because these are vague terms and their boundaries are not rigid or well defined. But the reason why I'm trying to define them in the specific way which I am doing is because I often find that when marketing and sales are not looked at separately and not clearly defined separately, you tend to mix them up. And marketing and sales, both of them require very different qualities for you to be successful in them. And a lot of the CEOs of the top companies, they understand sales, they understand pitching, they understand closing the deal, but they don't understand marketing in a general sense. And a lot of business leaders or thought leaders don't understand them either. Which is why a lot of the times this happens when you go to a program to learn something, and that is a whole marketing tool. But then they end up trying to make a sales pitch to you from one to many. And that is not a scenario for sales, that is a scenario for marketing. And you just end up not liking it at all.
As you just mentioned about how many entrepreneurs don't know about marketing strategies, I think that's one of the reasons why in teaching modern marketing, sales is kind of included as a part of marketing. Don't you agree over here?
Uh, well, if we look at marketing degrees that you get, right? They teach you marketing strategy and they also teach you how to close a deal. But if you look at the unconventional way of teaching it, there are certain schools of thought which present them separately as well. Ultimately, it's all about understanding that what you should do in different scenarios. It doesn't matter how you term it, you know.
Savya, you have anything?
Yeah, I think that what Keshav and Malhar, what you and Keshav, both of you said was quite interesting. And well, you guys might know that I had a company of my own, but it's closed down now. As owner of that company, I always felt that because it was just me and my mom and two other workers working together, so I always carried out the aspects of marketing and sales and everything myself. So to me, sales always conditionally meant like it was always a subset of marketing for me. It's like I market the product, I get the customer, I convince them one on one why they would want to buy that product, and then sell it off. So that's all. That is exactly what I always felt. Nothing else.
So, in a sense, while we're looking at the activities that marketing consists of, it talks about identifying customers and understanding how to go about convincing that specific customer based on their personalization, based on their personality. And depending on the product and the price and everything, you sell the product to them in a way where you convince them that they need to buy this product, or you create a need for them to get the product.
Right.
That I think would be sales because that is when you're actually able to interact with the customer on a very personalized basis. I think if you take the same thing and you try to put it from the perspective of marketing, marketing would start with the starting of the business because when you're starting your business, if you're not identifying that this is my customer, this is the need of my customer, and this is a certain unique selling proposition I can have, then you decide on the product, then you decide on the packaging, then you decide on the pricing. All of this, or the product packaging pricing strategy, the USP branding strategy, all of it would come under marketing, and then you advertise it.
I would also like to add that many times marketing team of companies create scripts and structures based on which sales team make their pitches, because the marketing team is more educated and have more specialization than the sales team, which have to work more on the ground zero and just have to convince the customers. And a lot of times the marketing teams create scripts and techniques and strategies based on which sales teams make their sales pitches and work towards selling their products. Okay, so Keshav, why don't you tell me more about the history of marketing and how it evolved?
I think marketing basically, uh, the in the rough sense, marketing would have began with the beginning of the marketplace, but in a strategic sense, where actually something that resembles the modern marketing, I think it began with the start of print media and marketing in the printed form. uh, and because of that you could have a print that's going across a wide region, and just by putting an ad in that particular newspaper or on a particular poster, you're able to reach a wide audience very easily. And of course, after that you have radio, after that you have television, and with that, today you have the internet and ads, and now ads are infiltrating every part of our lives.
Whoa, whoa, slow down there. I mean, you're right. Like, modern marketing is completely over the internet. And when we talk about the internet, we have to talk about ads. And ads are everywhere nowadays. It's completely infuriating to see ads on all internet platforms and the entire monetization of the internet. So I feel like, the advertising was kind of, what do you call it, regulated as far as TVs and radio came on, because radios were mostly focused more on the shows and the series that actually used to take place, and advertising used to be just a part of it. Well, when you look at the internet, everything is free on the internet, and the entire monetization of the internet is based on advertising and ad revenue. And because of that, they've kind of, you know, said, fuck the regulations, we're going to advertise as much as we can on whatever we can and through as many different forms as we can. Like even when we go, let's say YouTube, and click on a video, if you don't have YouTube Premium, you're gonna have to skip through two ads, and even after the video ends, and when you go to the next video, there might be an ad before that as well.
So the thing that really scares me about these pop-ups, I understand completely about marketing and adverts and pop-ups completely ruining our time on the internet. But what scares me more is that how personalized these adverts are getting slowly. Because I have seen I have visited Google a lot of times, and even on pirated websites also insert for the viewers, do not go to pirated websites. We do not support pirated websites, but unquote. But yes, when I go to pirated websites to download some torrent, I see that there are like Google ads infiltrating into that as well, and I can see data about me. I was looking for dog food a while ago, and I see ads for dog food and stuff like that. So it's really scary how they are slowly collecting data on us and slowly sharing the data with other third party companies and allowing them to insert ads in that place. So it's pretty scary as well,
Okay,
and very
there's
creepy.
something spooky I once encountered. If you guys want to hear about it, there was this one time I was talking to a friend about ordering food, and we were deciding whether or not to get Subway. 2 minutes after that, I was scrolling through Instagram stories and an ad popped up, 10% off Subway, use this coupon. And it spooked the shit out of me.
I remember the same kind of thing
And
that
that just
happened.
goes on to show how good cookies and AdWords can analyze us to the point where they can predict what we want when we want it.
I think I recount an encounter me and Ram had. We were chatting about lightsabers, and I'm scrolling through my Instagram feed, and I think that same day, within a few hours, I get an ad for a lightsaber company.
Oh yeah, that happened to me as well.
So yeah, that was pretty spooky. Funny people still believe that privacy still exists.
And I think this all comes under propaganda and monopoly of advertising. Eva, I think you were the one who really wanted to talk about propaganda and advertising. Why don't you give us an input?
So basically, in the 1930s, advertisement was classified as propaganda, and over the time, it got incorporated into a very formal definition of what propaganda could stand for in marketing. Ultimately, marketing could be defined as corporate propaganda because it's selling stuff you might or might not need.
Right.
In the general sense, a lot of the times when we use propaganda, it's in a negative connotation to imply something a political party is doing to push their own agenda, and it's usually through some kind of false means. So,
Propaganda is basically pushing forward an agenda that appeals to a larger public, and in a sense, advertising is also the same thing, pushing an agenda of buying a product to a large mass of people.
yes, but I feel that propaganda would be something where you're using or presenting some kind of false information, or either you're hiding some part of the truth.
But isn't that what many companies do in their advertisements? When we
And
look at companies advertising, it's a lot of the times they always try to hide the false information and try to show a false front that looks good.
that is actually a pretty big problem because we have started uh, a lot of people, they don't fact check what they're getting, and because of that, a lot of the times they end up believing what is shown to them. I think originally how some of the pharmaceutical companies, they were able to market themselves and place advertisements which presented their product working in a way which is different to how it actually works. They're presenting a fantastical version of it, but people don't realize that, and people buy it uh, assuming that this is how it would actually be. Cigarette companies, advertising, and several other places where advertisements are done.
But it's not wrong on the business ka part, right? मतलब, what is the motive of any business? It's to be promoting operating activities, which is basically sales. And if that has been accomplished via the form of advertisement, so they are not on a wrong path if they're actually twisting and promoting and propaganda for customers to buy their product.
But does it justify what the companies are doing to mislead the customers? Does profit making motive justify all of this?
See, Ray, so basically, let's assume that Ram, you're owning a cigarette company. Okay, let's assume. Okay?
Yeah.
And what is your ethics in that situation? Tera, what is your basic motive if you're opening a cigarette company?
I want to sell cigarettes to people.
Yeah, so ethically you're right in your path, right? So how could you say that statement?
Teleologically, you're accomplishing the motive which it was meant to do. It's a tool to.
Exactly. मतलब business ethical standpoint से if it is a very bad business, let's just assume it is a business which is selling medication which causes cancer. ठीक है? Ethically, that business is मतलब on a ethical standpoint, the business is completely right by selling its product because that's उसका motive ही वही है, उसका existence का point ही वही है. तो वो गलत कैसे हो गया?
Let's say it's.
But still you have some social responsibility, na?
My social responsibility in this case is to be promoting my product.
Also, the interesting thing that the cigarette companies actually complete their social responsibility by simply posting it on their packages, smoking kills. So that is also another example of them, clearing their own conscience.
It's not clearing the conscience, it's actually required by law. And that is where I think, see, businesses by themselves, they form part of society. And because of that, they have to function in a certain way that they do not cause harm to public interest. And that's where the law of a country has to step in, and they have to make sure that the businesses are being held accountable for their actions and that they are working within certain moral ethical quandaries which are present for the larger society. So the ethics of a business are, of course, to earn profits as much as possible. But there are also
That's the
ethics.
main goal of business. But when you
Yeah,
look at ethics, there are different types of ways in which businesses do contribute to society. Like when we talk about smaller businesses, let's say a shopkeeper working his shops. Not only is he earning revenue, but he's also making sure that he has four other people working for him, even though it's a small shop, and making sure that they are able to earn their livelihood. And on a larger scale, when we talk about large corporations provide developmental infrastructure to to a society or a community, provide research and development, and they provide industrial development as well.
they also provide great
So
products
they
which people
provide
want to use.
variety of products which
Yeah.
people want to use. And if you look at the negative sides of large corporations, a lot of times large corpor- um, corporations monopolize the market, and because of that, indigenous businesses run out of money and they go out of business eventually, and they bring in loss. And the large corporations don't hire the indigenous businesses or their workers into them. Kind of, yes, Sabir, you had something to say.
Okay, so the point that I had to say, it is a very interesting fact, and it is actually related to what you're saying right now about monopolization. So I guess you guys remember about the time when the U.S. Senate had a hearing with Facebook, Google, and Apple and Amazon. So over there, there was this one case picked up where Facebook had actually manipulated Instagram's CEO into selling Instagram to Facebook. So what Facebook had done at that time was technically try to bully Instagram into selling it to them. They said ki, like Facebook is gonna make this new camera app and it's going to make it go viral on social media and it's gonna praise Instagram as completely. So the only option that the CEO of Instagram had at that time was to sell off Instagram to Facebook completely, and or it's either that or completely get run in the ground.
Well, when we talk about ethics, when we are talking about ethics here, just to clarify for the listeners, we don't mean ethics in the general sense. Ethics, when we're trying to talk about in the philosophical sense, it's about virtues and vices. And so, for a single organization, what is virtuous for it is to fulfill its purpose, and what is a vice is anything that detracts from its purpose. Which is why we are saying that for a business entity, it's ethical to earn as much profit as it can. However, when we try to bring it into the perspective of the larger picture, so then we have to redefine ethic as something which is beneficial for the public interest. So, what do you think about?
Keshav, I might have to disagree with you on that because I really feel ethics is what is right or wrong at the end of the day. And even though you include different perspectives into it, harming other people and their livelihood or harming a community cannot be considered ethically right, even though it's for a profit motive. Just saying, I'm going to disagree with you on that topic, but go on, just tell us your point of view as well.
Ethically, I mean, if you look at it, uh, it depends on the point of view. Morality is for a person, it changes depending on their core beliefs, and because of that, you see the brainwashing that is done to the militant groups, or the religious zealots and the terrorists. For them, what they are doing, they are going and bombing places, they are hurting people. That is something which is going to redeem them or give them liberation. And so, even though it's a really heinous act, which, from a perspective of, uh, society at large, it is something which is not acceptable at all. But because,
So in a way, you're saying that due to the capitalist nature of most of our economies around the world,
yeah,
and the business nature of which our entire economy revolves around, in a sense, you're saying it is ethically right to do whatever it takes to make profit.
from the point of view of the business. But of course, now we have to consider that a business is operating within a society. So, because a business is a subset of the society at large, it has to operate within the ethical boundaries of the society that it places on it. And that can be placed through laws, that can be placed through customer pressure. Now, of course, because the business now has to work within the context of a society, there is pressure by the customer. So the businesses have started this new trend right now, which is also a part of marketing and branding, which I like to call as virtue signaling.
What exactly is virtue signaling?
Virtue signaling, I think it's actually a controversial term, which is I think it started on Twitter, so I don't like its origins. But virtue signaling is this, that you are trying to present yourself in a certain manner which is socially acceptable, and you're trying to present that you're advocating for this cause, or you're uh, being virtuous in a certain way, but you're not truly being that. So it is putting up a false front.
Right. So basically, what you're trying to say is that how companies sometimes do the Twitter thing of, oh, hashtag LGBT Pride or Women's Day and stuff like that, while in reality, they're also the ones that deny women the employment or have a very sexually harassive work culture.
And it's like you see it all the time. On some of the specific days, they do it when any major incident happens. When the George Floyd incident happened, everybody came out talking about how Black Lives Matter, and they're not actually taking any proactive steps to change things. They're just uh, saying these things, and they're making some small donations here and there, and they're talking as if everything is all right, and they're trying to create a picture that they're actually on the side that is being beneficial, and that is causing these that has these certain virtues, but in fact that's not the case.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is that the companies basically create a front of them being the ethical good guys to create generate more interest and have people more interested in their products, while actually being bitches behind the back.
They're taking advantage of the laziness of the mass public. Like, no one's actually gonna check what they are doing in reality. They just need to show you, like, yeah, we support this. But do we actually support this? No one knows.
Exactly, and that's also related to consumer behavioral psychology, where companies come out with strategies that affects consumers' psychology related to that company by using virtual signaling and many other varieties of things, putting up a false front like, oh, we have 0% fat, while they must have other cholesterols that may not be considered as fat in the products, and a lot of other stuff like that, which is completely influencing consumers to buy that product without being able to realize what's happening.
Also marketing with a social or emotional tone to it, so just trying to manipulate the people with a social or emotional cause. Yeah.
And because of this, consumers get emotional, they make impulsive decisions, and it leads to them buying a product they don't necessarily need, but because the companies created a want for the product in the minds of the consumers.
See, consumers are irrational. Consumers make impulsive purchases, and consumers are easily tricked by presenting certain statistics in a certain way. And companies know all of that. They spend a lot of money to research about this stuff, and they do their marketing efforts in certain ways to kind of, you could say, hack into the psychology of the consumers.
Right. And while defining the ethical activities of businesses, and the way marketing is done based on unethical psychological manipulation, can you consider this to be as unethical as the other activities business partake in?
Maybe not uh, exactly more or less. I think it's relatively the same because in the end it's not as direct as, if you're limiting the benefits you're giving to your employees, or if you're not paying them a livable wage, uh, then that is certainly something which affects them more directly. But that is affecting a fewer number of people, and by marketing you're doing less damage to a broader number of people, if that
Right,
makes sense.
completely agree
Yeah.
with you.
Okay. When it comes to consumer psychology, I have this example that comes to my mind. So, I often talk to people and try to convince them of the fact that the music, the pop music of today, it has actually degraded in quality a little bit. And something which I've observed is that companies nowadays, they have hacked into the amygdala of our brain, and they've tried to do with music is they have understood that we like loud music, so they've increased the loudness of the music. They've understood that our brains like things which are familiar because that gave us a survival advantage. So they've hacked into familiarity, which is essentially why any song that you listen to nowadays sounds basically the same. They're using the same notes, and they're actually, in fact, written. I think 40 to 50% of the top chart songs are written by the same two songwriters. What they've also done is they've started playing them everywhere as often as possible. So you often notice that the song is following you around. And because of these things, the quality of music has degraded. And that's just one of the ways how this marketing thing has kind of destroyed an artistic endeavor. So they've stopped experimentation, they've stopped encouraging artists. They select artists based on the how marketable they are, how popular they are.
So instead of being more creative, they're trying to be more technical and more precise to appeal more than trying to look at the creative aspects of what they can do with the product.
So I guess to all our viewers right now, you understand how we are going with this topic, right? About marketing and how it is affecting you guys as a whole. Because as you can see, the people around, companies around, the corporate world around you, they have slowly trying to manipulate you. They have inserted themselves inside your mind. They're exactly they know what you're thinking, and they are tracking your every move, right? This is not a conspiracy. This is actually true. If you can look at the number of cookies and trackers there are on your websites right now, you'll completely understand what I'm talking about. So this again reflects back to what the original purpose of a podcast is. As we said in our episode one, our purpose is to make you guys understand, make you guys think, and make you guys question every single thing around you. So I hope you understand, and I hope you will start doing that immediately.
So I have a broad question over here to put out as well. So how do you think marketing has affected our world as a whole, or our society as a whole?
I think one of the most disturbing ways in which marketing has affected our society is that it has normalized the behavior of putting up a false front. So you remember how we talked in the start about how marketing, basically we are marketing in our daily lives. Every time we are trying to sell an idea or a version of ourselves to other people to get accepted into society, that's marketing. And because marketing false things, which is propaganda, uh, basically because since that is something which has been normalized by these companies, every individual has started doing that as well.
So in a large scale, you're trying to say is all human activities are kind of based on the ideas of selling ourselves as someone.
We are living in a world of lies, as I like to call it. So a lot of times I've talked to people and I see them feel so depressed because they feel that everyone around them is living happy, perfect lives, but that's because they just present their lives to be like that. And everyone is trying to be unique in their own ways, and because people realize that everything that's going around them is fake or fabricated, so now there is a new virtue which is being authentic, because of which even if you're something which is extreme or which is not acceptable uh, based on the moral values, the authenticity, if you call it out, if you so nowadays if you say I'm a narcissist and you behave like a narcissist, it's all right because you admit it, because you accept it, because you're being authentic, because you're being yourself, that's become a new
Basically,
virtue.
Keshav, in one statement.
Basically, Keshav.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. And
Keshav, just because you call yourself an asshole does not give you a free pass to be an asshole.
Exactly.
I hope you noticed that and realized that.
We will
but
simply
to an extent
ghostly, hardly
it does allow
accepting.
that, right? Because you see
No, but I
Larry David.
really like your example as well, and I completely agree with you. I mean, even when we try to apply to a college, we have a resume, we have a personal essay that we write describing ourselves. To be a perfect candidate for that university or that institution we are applying to. Even when it comes to a social circle of friends, we act in a way where we pertain to being similar to those people just to get along with them, just to be accepted, just to be part of a group. And that has completely changed the way human beings have started socializing. And maybe it's not something that started off late, and maybe it started much back later, earlier on in history, but it does play a vital role in our lives, and maybe we need to be more aware of this.
It's been accelerated a lot by you know the marketing trend and social media in general, I feel.
Social media, yeah.
I mean, no wonder there is a lot of cases with identity disorders as well as multiple personality disorders, simply because they are so confused living double lives everywhere. It starts getting confusing for everybody.
Double, triple, multiple.
Ha, very true.
People are different in different settings and different with different people, and a lot of the struggle oftentimes is finding someone who you can be yourself with, who you can be who you can truly admit your darkest thoughts with, and who can accept you for that.
I mean, but that's not new, right? Even though it's accelerated over time, but this concept is not new.
Of course it's
Humans are
yeah.
humans are said to be having an alter ego and super ego since a very long time. It's not a new concept. It's just that now that it's been showcased to us via different platforms that we are so aware about it, and we are pressurizing ourselves into following the specific clique of shit around us.
You know what I find ironical about the whole thing, which is that despite authenticity being something which is virtue, the problem with virtue signaling is anytime something becomes a virtue, even something like authenticity, people start to virtue signal authenticity. And so, you remember the example in the Boys TV series where there's this character called Stormfront, and she's a Nazi, and she kind of gives people a sneak peek behind the curtain of how superheroes actually are in real lives, but she's still concealing and hiding several different facts, and she's still propagating her own agenda, which is a very disgusting agenda, and she knows people won't accept that, but she tries to create her own brand of authenticity, and she's faking authenticity. So that is the dystopian reality we're kind of living in.
So, while talking about something so intense and giving you listeners something really hard to think about, let us know what you guys think about the whole conversation in this episode in the comments, and we will love to reply to you and have a conversation to you with you guys. And see you next time. Bye.